In this lecture, we will discuss why the Abbasid period is called the Golden Age in Islamic history. In our previous discussions, we examined the contribution of the Abbasids in different sectors of the society. In this lecture, we will discuss Abbasid's contribution in the field of education, art, and science. Finally, we will discuss the factors that led to its decline. Education during the Abbasid period. The Abbasids carried the legacy of Arabization of the Umayyad period in education. The existing elementary system of education developed Arabic language in grammar, lexicography, rhetoric, and literature. Education continued in mosques, homes, and palaces. The teachers and scholars were well paid. The caliphs and dignitaries respected the tutors of their sons as well as significantly raised their social and financial status. Arabic language became the vehicle of original work in science, especially in medicine, astronomy, chemistry, geography, mathematics, and also in philosophy, history, ethics, and literature. The first Islamic academy, Bait al-Hikmah, was established during this period. Later, many libraries were built. Learned men and distinguished scholars were employed as librarians. Hospitals were built and medical education was introduced. In the curative use of drugs, some remarkable advances were also made. Pharmacists, druggists, and physicians had to pass an examination before starting their practice. Observatories were built and centers for astronomy education were also set up. The Abbasid period is known as the Golden Age in Islamic history. The Abbasids were patron of art and culture. The process of Arabization, commenced by the Umayyads, was completed by the Abbasids. Caliph Harun al-Rashid, who became the subject of stories in the classic 1001 Night, was a major patron of the arts. Under the patronage of Caliph al-Ma'mun, the famous House of Wisdom, public academy and intellectual center was built. Muslim scholars were inspired by the works of Plato, Aristotle, and other Greek classics to understand their own search for spiritual truth. Historian Bernard Lewis noted that the Muslim development of experimental science has bequeathed a rich legacy. It helped to start the modernization of the West. The Abbasids made major contribution in many fields such as literature, philosophy, algebra, geometry, astronomy, science, and medicine, art and architecture. This is the book cover of Caliph Harun al-Rashid's famous stories, 1001 Nights. Al-Biruni, the Persian mathematician, belonged to the Abbasid period. Al-Biruni is known for developing trigonometry. His contribution to mathematics were mainly made through his work on arithmetic, algebra, geometry, Archimedes' theorems, trigonometry, and solving spherical triangles. His work was not only confined to mathematics, he was also a scholar of other sciences. Al-Biruni, who traveled to India during the time of Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni, he noted down his observation of Indian subcontinent in the book Kitab al-Hind, the Book of India. In this image, we see the cover of Kitab al-Hind. In this image, we see the picture of Ibn Sina, the great scientist of the medieval period. Ibn Sina was a Persian scientist. Ibn Sina is known in the West as Avicenna. Bukhara was also the birthplace of the great scientist of the medieval period, Ibn Sina. Written almost exclusively in Arabic, Ibn Sina produced numerous works, including commentaries on the works of Aristotle and two encyclopedias, The Healing, Al-Shifa, and Delivery, Al-Najah. However, Ibn Sina is famous for his 14-volume medical canon or Laws of Medicine, the Canon of Medicine. It offered a comprehensive overview of the body of medical knowledge known at the time. Ibn Sina invented the use of oral anesthetics. He recognized opium as the most powerful drug for oral anesthesia. For 7 centuries, the Western Europe used it as their standard medical text. The National Library of Medicine in the USA has acknowledged the contribution of Islamic medicine to the modern world medical science. Architecture also gained momentum during the Abbasid period. The spiral minaret of the Great Mosque of Samarra, Iraq, shows the architectural marvel of the Abbasids. The decline of the Abbasids. In spite of the great cultural achievements and the spread of Islam, the Abbasid political power began to decline from the mid-9th century onwards. The Abbasid Caliphate was threatened by the rise of the Fatimid dynasty and the Crusades. 5 centuries of peaceful coexistence came to an end with the confrontation with the Christians. It developed a legacy of mistrust between Muslims and Christians. In 1099, the Crusaders stormed Jerusalem and established Christian sovereignty in the Holy Land. Muslims, including women and children, were massacred. The Dome of the Rock was converted to a church, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque was renamed the Temple of Solomon. It became the king's residence. In 1187, Saladin, after re-establishing the Ayyubid rule over the Fatimids in Egypt, led a fierce battle and recaptured Jerusalem. Saladin showed compassion to the civilians, and the churches and shrines were spared. The difference between Saladin and Richard, lion-hearted, was Richard, after surrendering to Saladin, massacred all the inhabitants despite promises that he would be peaceful. Christendom was very divided. In 1453, Constantinople fell before the Turkish Muslim conquerors. The Byzantine capital was renamed Istanbul. It became the seat of the Ottoman Empire. Thank you.